Before our distinguished speakers leave the stage, we invite you to share in the excitement of a launch event. Please, Ms. Muder Eskil, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So we are going to launch the Impact Measurement and Management for the SDGs course today here, taking this opportunity. We obviously need IMM standards, methodologies, frameworks to measure and manage impact, but what is IMM? We need to learn the basics of IMM to start with. And the IMM for SDGs course as a learning tool presented in Coursera is a has a well-established content to provide an understanding of IMM in the first hand. The course was produced by Duke University Fuqua School of Business, CASE, and UNDP in September 2021. And it's a digital and a free tool. And Etkiyap wanted to make it available in Turkish as well. So it was translated into Turkish. But before going there, Cathy, would you like to share or give some brief information about the course?
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is so thrilling. I'm so glad to be able to make this announcement together. So as Shafak mentioned, it's the course we put together 2 years ago on Coursera. It's had more than 24,000 unique visitors and users since that time, learners, which means over the past 2 years, 1,000 people a month have come to learn about impact measurement and management with us. They come from all over the world. The top 10 countries from which users have accessed the course to date are the US, India, the UK, Germany, Australia, Canada, Brazil, Singapore, France, and Hong Kong. The course was developed very carefully as a global resource. We worked with input from a global advisory board as well as dozens of global investors, entrepreneurs, and other practitioners. I actually have on my phone, I have the ability to see all the comments on the course every day. And one of my favorite parts of my day is when I get to go through them and see what people are learning. I just pulled one from July to share with you. She said, this user said, "The depth of information and real-life examples shared in this course is exceptional. I would highly recommend this for new and emerging professionals in the social impact space. I feel empowered to improve the impact management practices within my organization and even share this knowledge with others." You can't pay for feedback like that. That made my day. And so, you know, we really tried with our partners to make this practical, to give real life examples, and to have people emerge feeling empowered. We also very early on recognized that being available in English only would be a potential barrier to wide adoption. One of the reasons that the course is on Coursera is because Coursera went ahead and automatically created transcripts of all of the course videos. It is mostly a video-based course with additional PDFs, and everything is downloadable and shareable for free. But the course videos have already been translated into Arabic, Indonesian, English, French, German, Hindi, Spanish, and Portuguese. But to translate the rest of the documents, we've started partnering with other global groups. And the Center for Impact Investing and Practices in Singapore was the first partner to launch 3 new translations, and those are in Indonesian, Thai, and Vietnamese. And so as of today, we are pleased to announce Etkiyap will be the second global transformation partner to add its translations to the course. Its translations in Turkish add a comprehensive library of IMM documents to the learning experience for Turkish speakers wherever they happen to be around the world. And the Turkish translation is now live inside the course as of this moment. So huge thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the brief, Cathy. I just want to go back to the audience and ask if how many people here has done the course or have you done the course in English? Anyone? Oh, yeah, I think it's like close to 10 people, right? And those who made it will know that Cathy is in the videos. And, you know, her videos are so beautiful. And when I first met her at a conference in Indonesia, I felt like I knew her. And I was like almost running towards her, like as if I know her. And she was like Okay, yeah, okay, let's meet. So the videos are really great. Probably we will produce the videos in Turkish as well, if we can, if we find the sponsors. But I think it's a good start to just overcome the language barrier. We will have it in Turkish now, and we will let you know about the steps, how you will get into the app. There are 3 steps that you should follow. You will be informed about that. And now going back to Sahba, I want to ask you, Sahba, of course for UNDP plays a crucial role in aligning activities and investments for the SDGs. And this course was designed with UNDP's invaluable support. How do you think the course serves the SDG agenda? Can you please explain us briefly?
Well, also you're an influencer, business and society influencer, top 10, top 5, I think number 4. So, I mean, for us, having things being uptaken and co-created is really the acid test. You know, things go on and have the life of their own. I think you need to also look at through the perspective of the, you know, who will benefit. I think students in academic settings are one type of audience because they're the future business owners, policymakers. We really need, this is an audience that we really are excited that it's translated, so it's more access in this, you know, more students from Turkey. Policymakers, we're in Ankara. You know, I know you were looking at the book. You were ambassador, Your Excellency. So hopefully we'll have you take the course now. We can check. One video, exactly. He started. So policymakers, I think, benefit from such materials. And then, you know, it'll be good to see them in practice as the uptake on the standards so that we can see what is the sort of impact. So I think there's different audiences, but the best part is having your leadership and that of EYDK to take this on with sort of the thought leadership of Professor Cathy. So yes, this is what excites us.
I think it's teamwork. We're all together in this.
And you know, the best things in UNDP, when it really becomes successful, people forget we had something to do with it. Like Matthew, a lot of the key institutions that are in Turkey, UNDP, or in India, IITs, we were at the basis of doing all the feasibility, but nobody remembers. They're like, what do those UNDP people ever do? It was just like, okay, but that's the best exchange.
So wonderful to have you here for the launch of this course, the IMM for the SDGs course. And now it's available in Turkish. It's free of charge and accessible to anybody who wants to develop an understanding of impact measurement and management in the first hand, and the rest will come. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to announce the opening of the IMM for SDGs course in Turkish. Thank you.
We thank our speakers for this valuable launch and their contribution to bringing this valuable content into Turkish. Dear guests, we are halfway through our Impact Measurement and Management Time to Act in Turkey event. We thank you for your participation and the insightful speeches our esteemed speakers shared.
At 1 o'clock in the same hall, under the coordination of Professor Cathy Clark, we will be organizing the Essentials of Measuring Sustainable Finance Impact workshop. You can find the group numbers for the workshop on the back of your name tags. But if you don't have any group number, please join a group which has less participants. And before we leave, I will tell you something. Before the lunch, I want you to stand up so we can take a photo all together. And after the inside photo, we will be take one photo outside at the Çim Amphi. After the photos, you are free for having lunch. Please take your valuables with you.
May I take the stage for a moment, please? Actually, we did not get any questions from the audience about the course. We did not ask if you have any questions. Any questions to our guest speakers here? Yes, please.
Firstly, thanks so much to Etkiyap and UNDP for having the lunch here. I'm a fan. I'm so sorry that I couldn't finish your course. I was in Akbelen. I'm an activist entrepreneur, so activism takes first. My question was what's your next plan after this course? Because you say you get really good feedback, and I'm a fan of case case IEEE. So what is your plan with it? What's your next move? I just want to ask that.
Oh, it's just a physical issue. Let's click the thing on. What I was going to say is, so we did the course in collaboration with the UNDP, and what we realized, we didn't talk about it here, but the course is organized around two different stakeholders. It's enterprises, which ranges from small social enterprises all the way up to corporates, and then the second audience is investors, and we actually bring examples and cases of people in both roles and how they can implement impact measurement and management. So one of the things that we started to do at CASE is we said, well, if this is the basics, how do we start to do advanced training for both of those audiences? And so we've started to do that. We've started to do that through executive education, live and also online, but not in Coursera, but live online on Zoom. We've done it through some corporate trainings that we've done, and we're now doing impact investor trainings as well.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Erdem Bey?
Thank you. Just to clarify, what you have in Turkish is only the written material, right?
That's right, but
So
there's a lot of written material in PDF form, and it's all downloadable, so everyone can actually take it and use it.
Great job, thanks.
Any other questions from the audience?
Actually, as you're a guest at the university, I would like to ask, what do you think about university education and incorporating impact measurement to university education? I mean, what about the courses that you're teaching for undergraduates and graduates? Can you give just some hints for us? Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, I was talking with Erdem, and he was saying he was he has already assigned some of the readings and videos in his courses, which is very satisfying to see. We have already integrated this into the MBA program, the Masters of Business Association. So we only teach graduate students right now, but we have integrated this into our impact investing electives. And I was telling Shafak, we also have a consulting program for our students. Our students consult to investors around the world. And this year, I think this is a sign, we usually, have a number of applications from impact investors who want student help on their projects. And it usually is a range. Some of it is business development, some of it is what market should I enter, some of it is diligencing different kinds of industries, and some of it is impact measurement and management. This year, all of it, every single request was for impact measurement and management help, which I think is a sign that we're starting to, the awareness of how important this is to their business is at a peak.
It's thriving, means we need to catch the train.
Yep. So we want to integrate it in as much as we can into other academic experiences.
I mean, one area of work that we historically have had very difficult time financing, but we were able to pitch is getting university in countries like Turkey, in India and others to do cases, local case development. I had one initiative at one point that had 50 business school professors who were generating cases in all over the world. It was a very useful sort of. And our pitch to policymakers was, the only way we could pitch it from funding was like, well, look, you don't have micro-level data that could use, and this case-based approach might help you get some of this analysis. So that I think is an important development that we need to see in the impact space.
I was just going to add another group that I'm part of is a membership of business school professors around the world who are teaching impact finance. And I definitely see there's more and more interest, but there's also there's kind of a from many of the mainstream professors, there's kind of a, well, you need to understand ESG first, and then maybe we'll get to impact, right? And so we're still, that awareness is still kind of on that journey as they realize that ESG is about risk management and impact is about positive. It's an evolution.
I mean, just on one, at that time, you know, Kasturi Ragan from Harvard Business School was professor of marketing. He was, yeah, he was the co-chair of this initiative. And it was interesting because Harvard Business School had written a very glowing review of SKS microfinance as an example, right? And then we asked some local professors for IIM Bangalore to go around, and they were at first even skeptical about, as you said, about the whole exercise. They said, okay, we'll do it. Then they're like, whatever you're describing in terms of the impact, I'm not seeing it in this company. All I see is a fast-growing financial services company that is providing a lot of loans to poor people. So that was an example of where basically this company was that became a successful microfinance institution, then fell into the trap of really aggressively expanding its financial loans to really poor people, which is not always a good thing. You know, they can have other means of helping them. So that their perspective was completely different. And actually, and then the thing blew up because a bunch of farmers said, we want to commit suicide, we have too much loans. It was fascinating to me, just the case development of, it was different time horizons that it was taking stats up, the HBS case, then we did our local case, but it also highlighted how you can get different kinds of lenses of perspective.
Yeah, it's a transition period. Going from CSR to responsible investments, from there to ESG investments, ESG-oriented investments, and from there to impact investing. It's an evolution of sustainable finance in the end. And it seems that we are going to witness so many different cases in the coming days, months, and years. But Cathy, maybe as a way forward, you can also, you would perhaps want to mention your work about the impact frontiers as well. Would you? Because that's the way forward, because a question came like,
what else are we doing?
To ask for that. Would
Sure.
Would you like to briefly?
I would be delighted to.
Yeah,
so as Shafak knows, we also have a partnership with another organization in the US that has been teaching globally called Impact Frontiers. This organization has been really at the forefront of an effort to help investors get up to speed on how to strengthen their own impact management practices, and we're teaching them what's in the course as the first step. But then the second step, which is a little more advanced and a little more wonky, is to help them think about actually creating a way to understand, correlate, and manage how their impact relates to their financial return. And so they create a rating system for their impact, and they create a rating system for their financial return, which is different for every organization. And they start to learn where are those correlations and where can they basically turn the dial up and get more impact per dollar, which I think, you know, getting back to Nergiz's question, might be of, you know, might help some of the university audience get there a little bit faster. Because honestly, the skepticism that comes often from the university community is, if it doesn't relate to financial performance, I'm not sure why I'm looking at it. And so, but this program has been running for 3 years. We do it as cohorts of investors. We're in our 7th cohort. We've had over 100 investors go through the program from all over the world. We do regional cohorts at times. We've done them in Asia. We've done them in Latin America. We would love to do one here. And it's an opportunity, it's a 12-month virtual program, and it's an opportunity to really learn as you go and to work within your organization to make the change happen as you're learning. So it's really, really applied. We support the organizations. It's usually up to 5 people per organization who attend so that they can actually bring it in back to their organization, have the conversations, and actually manage the change process as part of it.
So this program Cathy is talking about is a 1-year program, where the organizations do it, like learn it by doing it, to how to embed impact into their financial tables and all the, all their structures. And hopefully we will be creating a cohort from Turkey as well, to be students at Mike Krellis's and Cathy Clark's class workshops. So Mike is going to, Mike has sent a video and you are going to listen to it tomorrow. You are going to meet him tomorrow. He will talk about impact frontiers in his video, just for you to know, if you're interested.
Cathy, you are a faculty member or professor at Duke. And you are in the university, higher education sector. What do you think about the universities and higher education contribution to this field? Is it at the level of the satisfaction? Or where we are, is there some rooms, are there some rooms for research that we can do more?
There's tremendous
I mean,
amount, yeah.
you are trying to increase the awareness as far as I see, and educating people, making them aware of these important issues. But, you know, there's a strong higher education system worldwide, and I think that we can do more, and what we can do more. Thank you.
Well, I love the question. I feel like we have to do more. You know, universities are a place where people can become aware of many different things, right? And can go very deep on each individual sustainable development goal, for example. And I think each university needs to look at this and in context of their own faculty and what their own strengths are, and where they want to go deeper. So for example, at Duke, you know, this is important to us in the business school, but across the entire university, we have a new climate initiative, and we are trying to embed climate awareness, education, measurement and management, action, and progress into everything, even our engineering, even our hospital, even our, right? It's a big deal to actually think about how you change the footprint and the perspective of a university around something as significant as climate. And so I feel like it is contextual in many ways to each university, but I feel like there is tremendous potential to do that.
What about research?
And research as well, of course.
I encourage the audience to ask more questions if they want to, but if not, I'm going to close the session. There's one. Oh, there are a lot. Where were your hands?
Good.
Thank
Let's
you.
see them. Raise them.
Okay, we have some time for the lunch, so we have like a half an hour. So please ask questions if you have any. Just a quick question on you said you are on the National Advisory Board. So we are just starting this journey in Turkey. Could you tell us a little bit about the journey you had in United States?
Sure. I was on the first National Advisory Board in 2014. I am no longer part of that. But I was part of it when Sir Ronnie Cohen put together the first G7 task force in the UK, and then every country except for Russia put together its own National Advisory Board. Our experience was actually very interesting. We, as many of you know, the idea of these National Advisory Boards, which fold up together into an organization called the Global Steering Group for Impact Investing, the goal of the National Advisory Boards, and I'll be very curious to see what you guys have thought about your goals are in Turkey. At the time for us in 2014, it was to bring the business community and the policy community together around what the common issues were in trying to support the impact investing field. And what was interesting for us is in the US, and this is probably not common knowledge in this room, but in the US, we have a very long history of government supporting impact investing through something called community development. We have a governmental body that actually certifies impact investing funds as community development finance institutions. To do that, they have to adhere to certain impact measurement and management guidelines, and they have to report on the amount of money that they are lending or investing to low-income communities across the United States. That was created in 1973 by something called the Community Reinvestment Act, which was a reaction to the practices of our banks. Our banks were doing something called redlining, which means they were going into communities and avoiding the low-income communities and not lending to them. And the US government said, if you're going to be a bank in this country, you need to do your part, and we're going to create this incentive for you to lend to low-income communities. And the community development finance set of institutions grew out of that. So 1973 to 2014, that set of institutions has grown to $80 billion around the US. And the first, I will say this, with apologies to my wonderful colleagues that put together the National Advisory Board, the first set of people that they invited, they did not include the community development finance institutions. And they quickly realized, we already have this. We need to invite them. We need to engage in what their concerns are. At the time, we were in the middle of a very conservative political environment, and they were under threat in Congress. And so it was a wonderful example of how many different kinds of institutions actually take place in impact investing and how you have to bring them together to have the conversation. And then there were a set of working groups that were created both in the US and across all the other countries. One of those working groups was on impact measurement and management. And we tried to put together a little bit of a roadmap for what the essential elements were for all countries.
In the Turkish context, EYDK was positioned to be the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment for Turkey. And that was established in May 2021. But if we go back, it goes back to UNDP's report dated, which was published in 2019, and it was called the Impact Investing Ecosystem Preliminary Report for Turkey. So that was our starting point. And afterwards, in March 2021, we had the SDG map published, which was also another milestone for us to depend on and a great reference to depend on. Well, the aim is to create an ecosystem for impact investing. It's a new concept, but it's thriving. It's developing so fast because of the evolutionary changes in the world, in the financial systems, particularly. When we talk about COVID, climate change, it all relates to the Sustainable Development Goals at the end of the day. And that's actually the SDGs are our reference point with all of our activities, and should be with our activities and investments, whatever we do, in what sector we are, it doesn't matter. So it's about creating an ecosystem, and we have put together a public sector, private sector, government agencies, the non-profit sector, the academia, universities, all together, because we are talking about creating a sector, an impact-oriented sector. We cannot do it alone as a non-governmental organization. And
I just want to also note that looking at these different business cultures that I've interacted with, that Turkey actually has a historical sort of perspective, the business community, in terms of being part of the fabric of your community. As I mentioned, if you're in the middle of a crisis, if you're a person in Turkey, a business owner, SME, and you start firing people, it's not looked down upon. I won't mention countries, but there are other places people wouldn't blink. But this is part of it is, historical, cultural. Part of it is also religious, If you look at Islamic finance, there are elements of that. So I think it's important that as we look at these countries, we actually say that impact is very much embedded as the sort of rationale, raison d'etre of how business leaders think. Not all business leaders, there's new types of business leaders that don't think like that, but it's important to note that it is part of the culture.
The impact investing potential started with $15.3 billion in 2015 when the SDGs were announced. And by 2021 June, the potential was like $2.3 million according to the OECD report, if I'm not wrong. It's not been measured yet. What has happened after 2021? Because of COVID, there was, perhaps it was expected to decrease, but on the contrary, it increased because people understood the essence of the SDGs much better and sustainability.
The other thing is in terms of type of ownership. We noticed, for example, on the inclusive business, which is business working with the poor, that family-owned businesses were actually the most susceptible. Like the best, we go through a rigorous process at UNDP where you look at what people are doing, what their strategy. Honestly, some of the multinational stuff, the projects and initiative or product lines they provided were kind of very meager. And then you look at a family-owned business in India, Indonesia, and you're like, wow, they really are thinking in terms of a 15-year horizon. They have plans, the level of embeddedness in the community, so they know how to work. It also, so the legal ownership structure, I don't know, Professor Cathy, what you've thought about this, I think it's interesting. Sometimes these publicly listed large corporates can make a big difference in certain markets, like mobile money, but in other ones where it's very complex, missing markets, then you see that the family-owned companies really are much more.
When we go back to 2020, 3 years ago, the concept of impact investing was rarely known, maybe by a handful of people. And now we have 4 impact funds in Turkey and a wholesaler. Ankara Development Agency is the fund of funds for impact. And we also have a social impact bond announced recently. So we are moving fast, and we have to. And I saw other questions up there, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I'm Zuhal from TED University. And I'm also the head of the Center for Gender Studies, so I have to ask about gender for sure. What can you tell us about the gender aspect, especially as SDG 5 is on gender equality and we are very far away from it globally? And my second question is, as head of Political Science and International Relations Department, I would like to ask about corporations who are not sensitive towards SDGs and who keep on harming the environment, harming human and non-human health. How about these? What can be done against them? How can we gain them for impact measurement and management? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Shafak and I care a great deal about gender issues, and one of the communities that I feel very lucky to be part of is the Gender Lens investing community, which has grown up over the past 5 to 7 years around the world. One of my deep, wonderful friends, Suzanne Beagle, helped create and mother this movement around the world, and she and I co-taught for a while. And had a really interesting array of private sector, public sector, and other finance groups basically saying, we want to do better at this and we're not sure how, and we were helping them with the how. There is a groundswell of interest around that SDG. When you go up the finance chain to there's funds, and then there's people who invest in funds, right? And so they're usually limited partners or other sorts of asset owners. Those asset owners right now are really primarily worrying about 2 kinds of impacts. One of them is climate, and the other one is diversity, whether that's gender or racial diversity, and it changes around the world. So there's a lot going on in that area. If you're interested, I would direct you to Getting Gender Smart, which is the conference that Suzanne put on for a number of years. There is really good research coming out of the private sector now, Morgan Stanley and others, around the impacts of gender-aware investing. What's the second thing you asked about? Was companies not doing a great job? I think that's where, and I'll let my colleagues jump in as well. I mean, I really feel like, you know, what we're talking about today is kind of the best practice, right? The best practice is where you're proactive and you care and you're trying to make change happen. At the bottom end, you know, what is the floor for good enough behavior? That's where regulation has to play. And that's where we have to get better at what are the disclosure standards, both about environment and about social. I was just reading something this morning and I don't have the right data, but the gist of it was that a study was just done of the SDFR regulation in Europe, which regulates what financial companies have to report, and that it is significantly changing the behavior of those firms, which is just goes to show how powerful policy is.
I will answer this question specifically for TED University. For you, TED University is also a member to Global Impact Investing Network, which is based in New York. And GEAN, it's called GEAN. GEAN has a gender lens working group at the same time that you can benefit from if you look up. And we are happy to connect and give you more information about that.
From the UN's perspective, we believe that the women's economic empowerment agenda should be complemented by looking at other elements of what public policy needs to do, like care economy. How do we ensure that while we're incorporating women into the workforce, that you have the adequate sort of, let's say, care economy that can support them? Second, you know, leave for pregnancy. There's a whole set of other things that's very critical that needs to be part of this. We sometimes feel that the way things are pushed, it's like, oh, we just do this and that's enough. The other elements have to be part and parcel of the work. This is part of our sort of global conventions, per se, a rights-based approach to this. The other question about companies, I mean, there are a number of different tools. One is when you look at things like EU Green Deals or the EU human rights disclosures, that is becoming a regulatory sort of thing that is a driver for the future. The second thing is empowering civil society and stakeholders. You know, there's all kinds of lawsuits being, you know, sort of taken vis-a-vis different kinds of firms in terms of their behavior, you know, building the capacity of people to have recourse mechanism by which they follow these recourses and try to, I think is another important way one can have levers. And that affects disclosures related to financial institutions who invest in them. So putting pressure on that.
Thank you. If we have one more question here, can I please take the mic? Can you please transfer the mic to my colleague? And here, sorry.
Hello. My name is Elif Topkaya Sevinç. I'm a women's rights defender and also I'm a founder of a social enterprise. I'm just going to follow Zuhal's comments because I'm wondering, you are always, in your speech, you also very emphasize the importance of the private sector. I have a little bit anxious about the private sector's behavior in SDGs because it's becoming popular and more popular in Turkey especially. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I think that everyone knows here about the Akbelen resistance recently happened in Turkey. And that corporate was a member of UN Global Compact Network. As an activist, I always use UN vehicles for advocacy. So we wrote letters to Secretary General because that's corporate, many corporate in Turkey is, you know, writing and signing that commitment letter to the General Secretary, and we saw what happened in the Akbelen resistance. And as far as I followed, UNDP had an announcement about it. So what do you think? There's a very thin line working with the private sector because it is very easy to write a letter that I will, follow up SDG 5 and climate change, but what if it harms in the long run? Thank you very much.
Here comes impact washing and...
Exactly. So I think this is where we have to move from commitments to actual authenticity of SDG commitments. Behavioral change only comes when people actually start reporting I don't think they've done that sort of rigorous approach. So this is really the move in terms of, I think, the evolution of the marketplace, where we are going beyond. I don't want to make comment, but we at UNDP, well, I can say we at UNDP we believe we need to move away from this commitment-based sort of. Some people believe we should create a big tent enough for everybody to be part of it, and then we try to do change, but we have a bit of different approach to things. You have to set, you know, a set of commitments. So I think it's part of the evolution, and you will see bad apples fall, and this is one point, and you're no longer recognized. One thing I would want to note, which is an issue in Africa right now for us, if you look at things like the cacao value chains and others, because of child labor, which is so intrinsically part of the market culture and community, what has happened is a lot of multinationals have totally disengaged. Because every time they get flack, they consider their local subsidiary bad. They literally have, yes, child labor. But this is actually bad too, because if they completely disengage and we have no interaction with these actors that need to be reformed, then we cannot just sit with the most comfortable social enterprises that we're happy with. We really need to address some of the biggest challenges on the world. And that requires, yes, a fraught sort of set of engagement with companies with different incentive systems.
I think it's a turning point. That incident is a turning point for Turkey. But there is always, as we say in Turkish, the other side of the medallion, right? The other side of the coin. So we're in a transition period. See, now we are having this meeting in this room. And most probably, the internet we get, the lighting we have here, the meal cooked there, is dependent on fossil fuel at the moment. So we have to have a plan, and we have to have disclosures. That's the function of disclosures, to have a plan, to have a roadmap. At the moment, we are at the state of using fossils, but what are we going to do for tomorrow? And when I say tomorrow, I'm not talking about in a decade. I'm talking about the near future. We have to do something about it. And this incident is a milestone, perhaps, for us to understand business cannot be done as usual. It's a wake-up call, but at the same time, we should consider the fact that we are in a transition period. We cannot change the whole system from night to day in one night with one decision. So we are in that transition, and we have to be aware of the fact that we need to comply with the Sustainable Development Goals in the end, now if possible. And a question there.
Thank you.
Sorry, Cathy, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. My name is Renay Onur. I'm from Spor Istanbul. It's a company owned by Istanbul municipality, and its mission is to make Istanbul a more active and a happy place. Every year, 1 million Istanbulians use our facilities 10 million times, and last year we finished our social return on investment report. So, as you can guess, my question would be, as a taxpayer, I believe that every government agency or every municipality who are using tax should be measuring their impact and manage accordingly. And my question would be to you, I'm just curious about, according to the projects you make, you usually mentioned about SMEs, impact funds, but what about municipalities and governments? Are they, do you see a trend? Have they started to use impact measurement, and are they managing accordingly? Thank you.
Absolutely. If you look at the standards, we have standards for enterprises. We also have standards for bonds. So we've been actually very much encouraging Istanbul municipality to issue a thematic bond, in the works. Basically, one that adheres a set of projects, let's say, to environmental standards or social standards with KPIs. So I think for municipalities and sort of those entities with their interface with the private sector, issuing sustainability-linked bonds or thematic bonds, green bonds or other things would be the kind of entry into this, because then that forces them to do the impact reporting. And the SDG, UNDP SDG enterprise standards has a bond standard too.
Yeah, I would just add that even outside of bonds, I feel like government agencies at the municipal level or other levels have a natural relationship to trying to figure out whether you're having an impact on the public space. And so yes, these techniques, I alluded before to the fact that, as academics and as economists, we have ways of measuring whether programs work, but they often take a lot of money and a very lot of time. And so part of this is trying to figure out how can we be more nimble, right, in these institutions like yours. Sounds like you're being very nimble, but to really figure out what's working faster and get better at the change, because both the social and the environmental problems that we're facing depend on that happening faster than we're doing now. I just did want to also go back to this, the question over here, because I just wanted to point out, yes, the sector that is holding business accountable that you are part of is really, really important. And it's part of the ecosystem that we also need to rely on. Not everybody is a good actor, and not everybody is a good actor all the time. And so, having the accountability, I think, is made easier in some ways by these commitments, because then you can go back and say, well, you said this, and you did this, and you can embarrass them faster and more easily. And so we need that too. We need your leverage point. Thank you for the work that you do.
Going back to the municipality question, I have something to add within the Turkish context, of course. So there are so many examples of social impact bonds and development impact bonds in the world, more than 250, which were realized with municipalities. And in Turkey, after 2.5 years, we have given 2.5 years to work on that. The first social impact bond was, announced, and you were there, Renai, on the 14th of August, which means actually this system is now in Turkey, which means the legal structure. You need the legal structure and the governance structure to be recognized by the public agencies, particularly. And we did, it's done. We have now a pilot. We have now the system, the structure in our hands. And we have already started to talk with municipalities. So maybe you should take this into your agenda, and other municipalities as well. It can be done as an act of impact investing, which requires IMM. The lady in the back, and then I will come back to you.
Hi, this is Ayşe Arak Tunaboylu. I've been aware of this event through the work that I do with World Bank, but my question will come from somewhere else. I'm a CPA, professional accountant by profession, and I'm a member of International Federation of Accountants, IFAC. And for those who are familiar with IFAC, it's not the most hottest topic in relation to this, but most of the standard setting boards in terms of reporting and assurance has evolved from IFAC family. And when it came to sustainability reporting, our past year was very concerned that there would be significant regulatory fragmentation, which meant fragmentation in reporting when compared to the EU and US and globally. Therefore, IFAC advocated for establishment of International Sustainability Standards Board. Now, you are all aware that we now have S1 and S2, and they are still called IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards S1 and S2. So we also really want to see a link between the financial reporting and non-financial reporting so that the investors are best served. So one thing that we are actively working on is to find the gaps between GRI, European reporting standards, and also international standards, and social is one of the biggest gaps. Here we will be talking about a number of valuation or reporting frameworks, I suppose. I'm ignorant on this topic, but I'm eager to learn in the afternoon session. So my question is, since this is an area particularly it's difficult because of one size fits all problem, will we let other reporting frameworks or measuring frameworks evolve first and then look for convergence at some place? Because that development is also important to serve different investors, different customers, different clients, maybe constituencies. But then it takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of duplication of resources to converge them. So to Cathy, whether you're having discussions in the US with the regulators, and to Sahba, I have also seen an initiative by your agency on Islamic finance, which is also an area that we are monitoring closely for financial reporting and also non-financial reporting. So what are the discussions? What do you anticipate? And what would be a timeline? And which would be the best platforms to advocate to maybe make it earlier? Thank you very much.
$1 million question. Before you start to answer, I would like to mention that tomorrow we will have a bunch of practices and methodologies presented here that you can follow if you're going to be attending tomorrow as well. So you're going to see them tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be run in Turkish. And I'm coming back to you, Cathy.
I wish I could answer all of your questions. She's like, what do I need to do? When is it going to appear? And how important will it be? And will it be enough? And I can't answer any of those. I can tell you where we are and kind of going along the way, which is you mentioned the international, the IISB, I can't remember what the second I, as you said it, International Something Standards Board, which is trying to agglomerate globally the different standards under one disclosure standard. There are several issues with this. One of them, and they're doing a great job, by the way, they're coming along well. One of them is that we have different regulatory regimes across the world. The US is not where Europe is. I wish we were. We have a whole bunch of issues going on right now, even with ESG alone backlash. And so in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been talking about releasing disclosure requirements for both, climate and social for some time. And so they had a deadline, and it is long past. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. What we also see is, in the US at least, and hopefully you guys won't have to deal with this, we have a very big argument going on about what is material, and whether something is material because it's material to the financial bottom line of the business, which people are calling single materiality, or whether it's material to the stakeholders of the business, which is called double materiality. We, on this stage, believe that stakeholders are essential, and king.
Stakeholders.
Yeah. Yes, they are, and that we're not actually managing impact if we're not managing impact outside the owners of a firm, which is a very small and elite group of people. You're right that we want to get it into standard accounting procedure for both financial and non-financial impacts. I also think that that is still going to be just the floor. The floor of what is mandatory for every company is going to be less than what we want or what companies or investors need to make decisions about what they actually do, because there's going to be more and more complexity that they need than what is going to be regulatorily required. And so what we're really talking about here is what are the practices that if people put into place will get them the results that they want, and that's going to be on top of the mandatory requirements, I believe.
I mean, as it relates to your question on Islamic finance, we have a very more pragmatic strategy and approach. We're looking at areas like renewable energy, which has significant materiality in the Islamic finance investment sort of work methodology, and things like green sukuk bonds, basically. So we're looking at, in the capital markets in the Gulf and in these regions, it's just only now people are picking up an ESG. So the best way to approach it is let's focus on one financial product, build the impact reporting around it. This is what we're doing with the Islamic Development Bank, is pushing for a green sukuk bond as our first sort of entry. And then we'll look at other areas.
Speaking of the Turkish context, again, to answer your question, as EYDK, we are also now getting prepared to form a working group to align faith-based investment, which is Islamic finance in our country, with impact investing. So maybe CFA would like to contact us and follow us, our activities, and even contribute our activities. If you find me in the foyer later, we'll talk about it. And a question here. We have in the middle.
Thank you. I'm Kader from Tobeto and Enokdo. I'm also the coordinator of Istanbul Code project. This is the first social impact fund in Turkey. So my question is for Cathy. You mentioned about humans' mindset. Mindset is related to changing or developing something. The means of mindset is the level of beliefs about changing something in yourself or about others. So in your studies, do you have any measurement or impact about changing mindsets or what we do to change humans' mindset that to give, yes, you can do, or yes, we can do, how we measure this?
I think this is a very good final question to talk about change.
Do you want
Cathy?
to do it? Okay. There are domains outside of business where people study mindset change, and maybe some of you, have picked up a self-help book in the last 5 to 10 years and figured out how that works. It works through small incremental practices, right? Of changing the way you think, what you are incentivized to do, how people recognize you, how you recognize yourself. So that's a long way of saying I'm not sure I can exactly answer your question, but I do think it exists, and what we need to do is marry it with what we're doing in these institutions.
Sahba, do you have any additions?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, I don't have the answer how to change mindset, but you need to understand the mindset. I think that's the question. As I gave this anecdote of Vietnam versus Turkey and others, and then you make the kinds of incremental changes. And I think it boils down to skills, incentives, will, and mindset. Those are the 4 elements. So you need to understand all 4 elements and see what you need to do with it.
Of course, time will not allow us to answer this question in detail, as it is a very complex question. And what impact investing is proposing or suggesting is actually change. Change your mind. Get out of fossils. Get into the green area. Follow the SDGs. This is the change of mindset. So we'll see if we're going to be succeeding or not. And we have to, actually. I think we should stop here, and we're out of our time. Lunch is waiting for us. I leave the floor to our narrators. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. Great questions, and the attention of the room is really great. Nobody left. Everyone is here. Thank you so much. Thanks. And thanks to our speakers, guest speakers.
Dear guests, we thank you for your participation and the insightful speeches our esteemed speakers shared.